Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Madam and my dearest friend. So today we are from Group Plato going to present about our topic, which is the euthanasia between ethics, moral science and religion. So I'm Izza Elyana Binti Ahmad Shuhaily and my group members are Suryati Binti Ibrahim, Asma Binti Kamarun Nisham and Mardzhiah Binti Adrie. So what we're going to talk about in this topic is the first one is introduction, definition, controversy, viewpoint, analysis, and the last one is conclusion. So what is introduction and these topics? Here we go. So for the introduction, we know that many countries have been that euthanasia has been one of the most critical concerns. Euthanasia is nothing more than a license for a person to continue or even end their own life in certain conditions. Pain and suffering while waiting for the last breath is more terrible than death itself. Giving an end to the subject matter when there are unbearable suffering and pain, and also death is certain. This is known as the idea of euthanasia itself. Let's move to the next section.
So, ethical controversy in euthanasia. From an ethical point of view, euthanasia is dealing with very basic principle, namely that we must respect human life, and it is never justified to sacrifice humans for a purpose. And religion controversy in euthanasia, or we can say this as same as Islamic point of view, is life and death. Only God has the right to determine, and humans are not allowed to take a person's life even though he or she is suffering from his illness.
There are various of viewpoints on euthanasia that each of philosophers either has same perspectives nor can be varied too according to their understandings, believing, ethics, and morality. Some of the well-known philosophers such as Plato, Pythagoras, Aristotle, Epicurus, and Hippocrates give their own opinion regarding this topic. Plato, one of the philosophic giants who was believing in the peace of creation, he opposed to what is today considered active euthanasia. An individual did cause the death of the patient intentionally and purposely is the meaning of active euthanasia. For instance, whenever a human is murdered by overdosing painkillers, in his laws, he suggests in a generic way that doctors should be punished by death if they lead off their lives by prescribing some form of medicine. Anyway, he is an open-minded person to people who undergo unbearable illness, although he expresses that those who perform suicide should be buried without self-identity and placed in deserted graves in abandoned areas. Plato argues that people who are unable to live a normal life due to their pain need not be cared for a longer life in the Republic. It is clear that Plato is against active euthanasia. It is based on Aristotle's short passage of his writings, Eudemian Ethics 4th and Nicomachean Ethics 5th. His point is made to suicide instead of directly deals with euthanasia. As in the past, he notes that the people who seek death are helpless and corrupt. He notes that pursuing death in order to prevent hardship or the sufferings of love or distress or hopelessness is not the action of a brave man, but instead of being a coward. Bearing in mind that the objective of the legislation is to assist community become socially nice, a good justice system would make individuals operate fairly and equally. As to if someone has broken justice by ending life, Aristotle states that it was not the person but community which has been wrongfully treated by a legislation, and that is why the individual should indeed be sentenced with buried in humility.
I'm Asma Binti Kamarun Nisham, and I will talk about the physician's view. Even though a patient has the right to decide whether to use euthanasia or not to end his life, the medical practitioner is the one responsible for carrying out this act. These medical practitioners are the ones that need to decide whether they should prescribe euthanasia or not. They also need to decide who is eligible for euthanasia. Thus, there are many opinions and views regarding this matter from physicians' view. Some agree with the use of euthanasia, while some disagree with the use of euthanasia. Those who agree with euthanasia state that they believe that by providing euthanasia, they will fulfill their patient's wish. They think that taking care of patients, especially terminally ill patients, also include allowing them to decide how they are going to end their life. For instance, a medicine doctor who is also a patient suffering from a tumor states that doctors focus on ways to extend their patient's life that some does not even know what their patients wanted in their last moment. Physicians who shared the same viewpoint also agreed that what a patient suffering from a long-time illness needs is to be free from anxiety and to concentrate on the meaningful things to them. To this terminally ill patient, having a medication that can help to hasten death can get rid of their anxiety and help these people to live on their last months and days fully. Some said that not allowing their patient to stop the suffering can be considered as an act of bringing harm to the patient, which is against the role of a doctor, which is to heal and not to harm. Thus, they believe that allowing this patient to choose their death is the best option. And finally, these doctors have seen many unpleasant deaths where no amount of care and love could ease the patient's suffering. Thus, for them, improving palliative care does not bring any effect to this patient with a great amount of pain. Those who disagree with euthanasia believe that by providing euthanasia is against the profession of medicine. To them, providing euthanasia to a patient that have an incurable disease is just an act of murdering. The profession of medicine has rejected its members from doing any acts that cause harm or death to its patient. This is because they do not want to use the power of medicine against vulnerable people. Other than that, some doctors believe that a doctor should preserve life when and where possible. To them, the death with dignity term has a different meaning, which is to treat and care for the patient till their last moment. Their focus is on improving the palliative care, not legalizing euthanasia. This is because palliative care provides relief to the patient and it is a good quality and of life care for those with serious illness. Some doctors are also concerned about how the image of a doctor will change because of euthanasia. The idea of a doctor as healer, lifesaver, and treaters might change to people who allow and provide life-ending services due to euthanasia. Some also state that patients might make irreversible decisions when they are at their most vulnerable time or when they are depressed. Thus, some doctors strongly oppose the idea of euthanasia. This doctor might also consider the fact that those patients might have chosen to end their life due to the subtle emotional pressure that the patient face as they do not want to burden others. In conclusion, those who disagree with euthanasia can be summarized into what a physician named Leon Kass stated, that we must care for the dying, not make them dead.
So here is the Western view. Euthanasia is legal in some countries, especially in Western countries such as Brazil, United States, United Kingdom, and Netherlands. However, these criteria adopted for these practices vary from location to location. The profile of patients seeking assistance is almost invariably the same. So, in Brazil, we know the assisted death of euthanasia is not legalized, but the debate is timely, which will increase the number of chronic and infirm disease. It is estimated that the country will be safe largest in the number of elderly people in 2020. The next one is the Netherlands country. Euthanasia is legal if the patient are suffering from an unbearable pain and there is no light of improving itself. Especially in Colombia and Belgium, only terminally ill patients can request for euthanasia. And in Belgium, there is no age restriction in requesting this euthanasia. The third one is United Kingdom. It is also criminalized by enable death. However, the British Social Attitude Survey showed that people support the idea of voluntary euthanasia. This discussion on the subject have been increased year by year. And the last one is United States. The regulation of this euthanasia is under the debate. However, some states in the US had legalized assisted suicide, but none of it have made euthanasia as illegal in their country. We move to the next part.
Based on pie chart shown above, 7 respondents chose the answer which is it is considered as murder and it is against their religion. To give their opinions related to the question asked about, in my point of view, some people disagree with euthanasia because of it is considered as murder. Since there is no specific framework for it in most legal systems, it is generally called either suicide if committed by the patient or murder if performed by another. Some of them also stated that some of people disagree with euthanasia is because of it is against their religion. It is indeed true Christians are often opposed to euthanasia. The claims are generally predicated on the assumption that existence is granted by God and even that living creatures are created in the mind of God. For Judaism, a living creature is made in the image of God. Since creation is regarded as being God's creation and essence, human life becomes connected to God in such a specific way. It is indeed sacred. For question 7, based on the pie chart, almost all of the respondents, which are 55.2%, think that by improving specialized medical care can help in providing comfort for terminally ill patients, while minority of them, which is 4.8%, stated that by improving specialized medical care cannot help in providing comfort for terminally ill patients. Doctors can provide treatment to seriously ill patients in the hopes of a cure for as long as possible. These patients may also receive medical care for their symptoms or palliative care along with curative treatment. Regarding to the figure 8, majority of respondents, which is 21%, answered Islam as their religion, while one respondent practicing Buddhism. The relation of someone's religion can view what are their thoughts according to this issue and their beliefs with their own religion, whether accept it or not. In figure 9, most of respondents, which is Islam, answered that implementation of euthanasia is forbidden and it against the religion. In Islam, the nature of life which there is no reason to live is non-existent. In Islam, reasoning for committing murder to relieve suffering is not allowable. Patience and strength are widely respected and greatly valued in Islam. Allah said, "My servant aided to put death on to himself, and I have prohibited him to reach heaven." In the figure 10 above, 13 respondents answered no and the rest 8 respondents answered yes to respond the question given. In my opinion, they stated no is because they really love their close contacts like family members or friends. They cannot bear to see their loved one in pain and suffering, and I am pretty sure that they will find a way to save their life by taking them to see the doctor. They are not preferred euthanasia being implemented towards their loved one because of the religion beliefs. Besides that, they argue that as long as our loved ones are still alive, we need to spend more time while making them happy.
So hi everyone, my name is Aenull and I will talk about analysis. So for the first question, we asked them about the question, have you ever heard about of euthanasia or mercy killings? And we had 21 students who respond in this Google form. So majority, as you can see, majority had say yes, they ever heard about mercy killings or euthanasia, and 28.6% they never heard about euthanasia, and 19% of them might not sure either they ever heard or not. So for the second question, we asked them, what do you understand about euthanasia? And most of them saying that euthanasia is about ending life to relieve pains, and it's used for patient who didn't have the opportunities to continue his or her life. And some others also say that euthanasia is an act of killing for mercy and oftenly done with the reason to stop the pain or suffering in human or animals that clearly can't be done. And some of them also say that euthanasia is the act of killing someone. The third question is, we asked them, what are your thoughts on approving euthanasia? 57.1%, or we can say about half of them, say that they can't conclude because they don't know. 23.8% say that they disagree about euthanasia, and 90% of them say that they do agree about approving euthanasia. And for the fifth question is, we asked them, why do you think that some people agree in terminating a patient's life using euthanasia? And 81% of them, or majority of them, say that to end the suffering. So they do know about euthanasia is used to end their suffering, to end the suffering of the patients. And other than that, and about a quarter of them say that it is to fulfill their parents' wish, give their patients a dignified death, and some of them might not sure. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, patients requesting euthanasia might be due to unbearable pain, stress, depression, and more. Thus, many countries have not legalized it. Philosophers, Islamic scholars, Western countries, and physicians have their own approach to this subject. Even after many discussions, the legalization of euthanasia is still under debate as it is not a small matter. I think that's all from our group. Thank you and have a nice day.